Welcome to Obscured Reality with Mark and Stephanie. From UFO sightings to the lost city of Atlantis, from alien encounters to the living dead, each episode will leave you questioning reality. If you're ready to explore the eerie, tune in to Obscured Reality, where mysteries come alive.
Oh, it never gets old.
No.
But we do. Especially me. Yeah, well, we're all getting old.
Mm-hmm.
Got an interesting story. This came out in a news article a few weeks ago, so I've been holding on to it. Now it's interesting. It shows a November 2024 date published. So my guess is they're just kind of, it's from Fox News. My guess is they kind of just put this back up. But it's interesting. And I was just going to kind of add some stuff and not actually read the article, kind of just paraphrase and all that. But I wanted to get the pictures, and I was too lazy to look them up. So it's easier to just do it this way. Now, don't let the headline here mislead you. Alien chasers offer hints in decades-long quest to solve longest-running murder mystery. Cattle have been mysteriously killed throughout the U.S. in what some blame on extraterrestrial activity. Yes, that was it. Again, let's read the article. You can read along. I'm doing it from the article because there's some pictures, and I wanted those present because they go along with the details, you know? So let's see here. Slain cattle stripped of certain organs with surgical precision and found in pastures with no trace of blood or evidence of stumped ranchers and law enforcement and quiet farming communities since at least the 70s, potentially longer. So some of this is going to be stuff we already know, okay?
Right. Mhm.
That this has been happening. Regardless of what it is a fact it's been happening. We know that.
Mhm.
The animals are found in unnatural positions and drained entirely of blood by befuddled ranchers in, they list a few states here: Minnesota, Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Oregon, and elsewhere. Sergeant Jeremiah Holmes, he's of the Wheeler County Sheriff's Office in Oregon, has overseen 5 of these cases over the past 6 years. So this came out November 24. So this is recent.
Mhm.
He told Fox News, "There's more questions in this thing than there are answers." Okay. It's a felony to kill livestock, farmers' livestock, but there have never been any substantive leads to follow in these cases. That's kind of interesting.
Mhm.
The first time the lawman saw an animal die under these circumstances, he said there was a dearth or a lack of tracks or blood in the newly fallen snow. So that's interesting. Now, I would want a little more detail on that. Newly fallen snow. Was it snowing at the time? Meaning, ranchers out there at 5 o'clock one evening, everything's fine. The next day at 9 a.m., he finds this cattle deceased and mutilated.
Mhm.
Had it been snowing through the night, right? Because that could
Yeah.
cover up tracks.
Yeah.
I would think, these guys aren't stupid. I would think they're looking at that.
Right.
There's fresh fallen snow. There's a lack of tracks of anyone coming in or out of there. And we will mention Skinwalker Ranch in a minute here. It's not, I don't believe in the article, but I'm going to mention it.
Personally, yeah.
Here's one of the photos. This guy's pictured in front of one of 5 bulls mutilated on the ranch that he managed in 2017. Typically, he said scavengers would pick apart the animals' bodies, but they wouldn't touch these bulls, leaving the corpses to basically melt into the ground. This is a common recurring theme we hear with the cattle mutilation stories is other animals won't go near them, and usually they go tear them apart and eat, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
These are in areas where that happens. So there's a quote from him: "Why would someone take a reproductive organ unless it was a ritual or testing?" I guess I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you don't know. Nobody really knows. A ritual, yeah, cool. But, it kind of sounds like a lot of work, man. Go find a
Yeah.
cow. But then again, rural areas, probably a better chance of getting away with that because a cop's not going to call the police when you're trying to slaughter them, right?
Yeah.
Individuals will reach out and give their theory. There's another quote. Some think it's aliens, some think it's government doing testing, some think it's some rancher trying to get even. There are so many theories. The only one I've minimized
Hmm.
is predators. That's interesting. Out of all the possibilities, the only one he's actually minimized
Is
is
Fred.
predators.
Yeah.
Having grown up in
Mm.
the country and being in the livestock industry, I've seen firsthand what a bear will do, a cougar,
Yeah.
wild dogs, even what a man will do. Having seen all that firsthand, there's no way that I can chalk this up to predators of any sort. Reports of the phenomenon, usually involving cattle, but sometimes involving other livestock animals, began making headlines in mass in the 70s, with the Colorado Associated Press voting the mutilations the number one story in the state. But records of mutilations matching the same patterns date back to 1869.
Wild.
That's interesting.
Wow.
According to Stalking the Herd, Unraveling the Cattle Mutilation Industry by Chris O'Brien. So 1869, interesting.
Yeah. Did not know
Here's
that.
here's well, we'll talk about that in a sec too. Here's another photo. The bulls had organs removed with surgical precision, and no blood was left at the scene. Now we have heard some things on this in the past, as far as why there's no blood, things like that, and it could be legit that there wouldn't be much, if any, blood. I forgot the reasoning behind that, but that was a legitimate thing that came out. I'd like to know who's looking at these exactly, to be able to say surgical precision. Although, I'm not casting doubt. I think a law enforcement person in that area has experience with livestock and death and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, could contemplate saying possibly surgical precision. Um, but that might not necessarily mean 100% clean cut. That could mean went in exactly where they needed to go in to get whatever organ it was, right? Closest
Mm-hmm.
spot, easiest spot. Investigation Alien, a Netflix docuseries released this month that allows UFO journalist George Knapp follows him, through his investigation of extraterrestrials, blah, blah, blah. Quote from George Knapp: Initially, I grew up very conservative. Aliens were something that were scoffed at by my family and friends. Automatically, I assumed they didn't exist. But what is an alien? If people believe that there is Bigfoot or Sasquatch, there are people who believe in life on another planet, Holmes said. There would be some that would say if Bigfoot is a viable belief, then maybe there are unidentified creatures, even on this earth, that are doing this that we haven't identified yet. Now, that actually
Wow.
wasn't George Knapp, that was Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they mentioned George Knapp then. Um, they're just saying George Knapp suggests aliens are the culprits. Now, we've already gone into the whole Sasquatch thing, to an extent, not just the general history, but there are some professionals that have put the data together on something like a Bigfoot, an
Mm-hmm.
unknown species of that size and so elusive, and the possibility of them being able to be here without really ever being seen. I mean, people allege they've
Yeah.
seen them, but not in
True.
mass where people are getting good photos or videos or
Right.
really anything, and most have been proven to be hoaxes, right?
Right.
So what they concluded was basically, you would need such a large population of them to allow them to
To
continue
maintain.
to,
Mm-hmm.
maintain, live, grow. That there's no way you wouldn't know they're already here. And then now, has come about speculation that possibly the whole Bigfoot Sasquatch thing has to do with UFOs, unidentified flying objects, as
Mm-hmm.
there have been UFO reports, major ones, around the same time as Bigfoot sightings,
Mm-hmm.
alleged Bigfoot sightings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's another one. A cow found dead in an uncanny position with its tongue and reproductive organs removed in July 2020 in Wheeler County, Oregon. Ranchers in the area were urged to be extremely vigilant in watching over their cattle after the incident. So
That's a weird. That's a weird one right there.
That's interesting. Because how is the head staying up? I'm not understanding this picture. If
rigor mortis, bloat. I don't know.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, this caption goes with the picture, so you would reasonably assume that is the one.
Yep.
Side, I don't know quite what's going on there. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. But I mean, I can see the shadow from the head and neck and everything on the ground. So the head's clearly elevated. Quote, one of the cowboys called me on one of our radios that we had and said, I found a dead bull, which was a unique situation because it was uncommon for a perfectly healthy young range bull weighing 2,000 pounds to just be found dead, Marshall recalled. The Hereford bull was lying on its side with its front legs sticking out at an uncanny angle. Its tongue and entire reproductive organs had been carefully removed, but there was not a drop of blood. So maybe they propped it up. So it was laying on its side like this, but maybe they propped it up to start inspecting it, getting ready to move it, take it out of there. That's
Who knows?
probably what I'm assuming there.
Yeah.
But yeah, reproductive organs, carefully removed. No, no blood anywhere that they could find. They had not punctured the abdominal cavity. I've harvested a lot of animals myself over the years and butchered a lot of cattle for processing meat, and I'd never seen anything like it at all. The second bull was found with the same organs missing, as were 3 more bulls found the next day. So here you have 2 one day and 3 the next. No puncturing of the abdominal cavity. However, reproductive organs missing, tongue. So that is interesting. I'd like more explanation on how the reproductive organs were removed. For instance, is there some spillage or tearing around the rear end area? Like you're going in somehow, and through the mouth would be, yeah. I mean, you're not doing that going in front to get to the back, right? So
right.
Interesting. I've seen lots of animals, variety of different situations from injuries to diseases. It was just the most surreal, weird situation, blah, blah, blah. He told Fox News because ranches are sprawling, cattle mutilations typically take place in remote areas. Necropsies, and other forms of investigative work are no longer viable because the animals' bodies have become degraded by the time that they are found. So now we're looking at them saying there's a pretty good span of time in between the death and when they're found, but that's not quite what we were just reading a minute ago. So if we go with what's said here, now I really call into question blood, the presence of blood. And, you could possibly be seeing blood right there and not even know. It's going to be dried, it's going to be discolored, dirt's gone over it. You don't know.
Yeah.
But there's still more here. We tried to collect the forensic evidence the best we could, and we necropsied the bull. There were no signs of liver damage or heart damage or lung damage. There was no missing internal organs. The stomach of the animal was full. They had been eating, they had been drinking. There had not been any stress to them at all. The bulls who weren't transported to a lab just melted into the ground, whatever, but scavengers wouldn't touch them. In a normal situation, scavengers, coyotes, bears would just sort of tear the animal apart, drag it all over. Bones would be spread all over. Hides would be missing. Heads would be gone, as expected. $25,000 reward was put out to find the persons who were mutilating the bulls. Interesting. No information ever came. Maybe 25,000 is not enough to give it away.
Give it away. Sorry.
They're basically looking for answers rather than extraterrestrials. Marshall thinks a sophisticated network of humans, likely cultists or a group using the animal parts for ritualistic purposes, is to blame. You know, I think you'd be seeing, these are rural areas. So I think you'd be seeing more evidence of some cultish type rituals going on, whether it be in the form of just evidence found somewhere other than a cattle mutilated, or possibly, you're going to get some word of mouth about the stuff going on.
Right.
Or are they flying in a couple people who are pros at doing this to go get the parts they want and fly them back, private planes, but everything's checked nowadays? Like, I don't know. I believe there's a big galaxy out there. I mean, well, you don't have to believe that. I mean, we know that's true. Our galaxy alone is big.
Yes.
And there's an extremely high probability that we're not the only sentient life forms in the galaxy. Um, basically saying, yeah, I think there's life out there, aliens, but I don't think they're using their technology to come after free range bulls in Eastern Oregon. Um, Whatever, it's just someone's opinion. Who knows? But hey, they're coming across the galaxy to come and get beef in Eastern Oregon. Means we got some pretty darn good beef. Okay. Um, there's not too much. The FBI investigated the phenomenon of animal mutilations between 74 and 78, but no answers.
Hmm.
I've been advocating for the federal government to look into it more with the tools that we have now. Um, that's pretty much it. Now,
Okay.
there was something mentioned up here. Told you we are going to talk about. Oh God, but I got to find it. There's a few things. So first,
Okay.
Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know if you guys have seen the what's called The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. The next season should be coming out somewhat soon. They've found this sort of thing on their ranch. They found no blood. The same deal you're seeing here, allegedly. And while they're recording the show, they found them. There was even a time where they wound up. I remember they were sitting out at the big table at the porch having their meeting for the show, and they could hear the cows in the background starting to move and kind of getting spooked. And they turned around and looked, and they're all running to one side. But there was one cow that had already been separated, not physically separated. It was just had wandered off from that herd.
Hmm.
And so when whatever is spooking them happened, the main chunk, of cows, that whole herd started going one way. It was enough to draw all these people's attention. That's when they noticed this other cow was off in the distance. This thing was unable to do anything. It was there. It basically wound up collapsing. And that's when they saw what they said was a UFO in the sky above where the cow was. Now, when you watch that episode of Skinwalker Ranch, what you see is a light up in the sky. Okay. Let's say it is still and it's midday. It's probably not, you're not going to be seeing a star, regardless of what it is, might be, might not be, who knows. But it's just a light in the sky. It wasn't
Right.
super bright, but you could see it. You don't know where that light's at. And I hate that they do that and they say, oh, it was right above the area where the cow was. But how do you know it was above that area and not
Yeah.
10,000 miles away out in space?
The perception of distance. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
So that, they're finding it there too. They're showing it on the show. That is interesting. I still have trust in Brandon Fugel. He seems to have continuously been very honest about everything, saying he's not taking money from the show. That was one of his things. He told them, I don't want money. He has admitted that from time to time they will pay for some of these groups to come in and help them out. But other than that, he's like, we do not take money from this. This is completely funded by myself, and that's it.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know. What do you think? I'm going to look for what I was.
I'm. I mean, I don't believe that it was aliens in general when it comes to cattle mutilations.
Mm-hmm.
I I really don't know what it could be. I just don't feel like it is extraterrestrial. Just because, again,
Right.
like the article said, why cows in the middle of Oregon or wherever, or
Right.
Montana, and I don't know. I don't know, but the Skinwalker Ranch part was kind of interesting. I mean, not the whole light in
Mm-hmm.
the sky part, but the reaction of the cows, and the one of them just standing there and not reacting with the rest of the herd, because cows are very
Right.
simple creatures. They
Yeah.
when the herd moves, they move. Like, it's not like there's a couple of
Yeah.
them that will stand around, but they
Oh,
usually,
squirrel. Let's all go.
yeah, and then they're like,
A
oh,
cliff.
everyone's going, but they just they'll eventually follow, But so
Yeah.
it's interesting that what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know, especially if there's been a few days since the I don't know. They say that there's been a few days between the death and being found, and you're right, that could totally have a lot to do with the lack of blood, and if they're bulls being um, surgically sexual organs removed, it wouldn't really be that hard, and they wouldn't have to enter the abdominal cavity
Mm-hmm.
because men dangle. Everything is outside. So no need to go anywhere near the abdominal cavity.
Yeah. If as long as they are all bulls where that's happening,
That's
correct.
what,
If not,
at least in
then
this article, it mentioned bulls, but I
yeah,
mean, there's a big,
exactly.
and there is a massive difference between a cow and a bull. So, I mean, we can say, oh, yeah, the cow is this, the cow is that, but was it the female cows or was it the male bulls of the herd? Because that is
Mm-hmm.
very important to designate, because that changes everything when it comes to location of sexual organs. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, they didn't enter the abdominal cavity because they didn't fucking have to. They're
Yeah.
dudes.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know.
Well, let
I
me.
just feel like the way they phrase things and the way, I don't know. I just
Yeah. Well, let me read something real quick.
yeah.
So, what I was going to mention was this whole, they actually kind of date back to 1869. So, I had looked a little into it, not much. You can find this multiple places. I'm going to read something small from Wikipedia here
Mm-hmm.
regarding early history. The earliest known documented outbreak of unexplained livestock deaths occurred in early 1606 about the city of London and some. So this is how it was worded back then, about the city of London and some of the shires adjoining. Whole slaughters of sheep have been made in some places to number 100, in others less, where nothing is taken from the sheep but their tallow and some inward parts, the whole carcasses and fleece remaining still behind. Of this sundry conjectures, but most agree that it tendeth towards some fireworks. I don't know what that means. It tendeth towards some fireworks. The outbreak was noted in the official records of the court of James First of England, and they collected many accounts of cattle mutilations. So the
Hmm.
1967 earliest recorded date, which obviously isn't, is Snippy the horse. And I think we might have mentioned Snippy the horse a long time ago in a previous episode.
Mm-hmm.
This one's quick. Unexplained livestock deaths were relatively unknown until 67, until a paper published a story about a horse called Snippy. It was mysteriously found mutilated in Alamosa, Colorado. So September 9th, 1967, Agnes King and her son Harry reportedly found the dead body of their 3-year-old horse. Important there, 3 years old, it's young, should
Yeah.
be healthy. The horse's
Mm.
head and neck had been skinned and defleshed, and the body displayed cuts that, to King, looked very precise. No blood was at the scene, according to Harry, and a strong medicinal odor was in the air. This is why I wanted to mention this and read this, because the article in Fox News mentions, oh, they actually go back to 1967. However,
Interesting.
they do, but a lot of the theories are aliens and UFOs.
Yeah.
But here we see there is a strong medicinal smell. That right there says human, right?
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
the reason for mentioning this is it kind of goes against the whole alien thing
Hmm.
on the 1967. The story was republished more widely later. This was the first case to feature speculation that extraterrestrial beings and unidentified flying objects were associated with mutilation. That's interesting. I'd like to know more on that, especially with the whole UFO part.
Hmm.
Um, were they having some type of sighting events around the time that these cattle were found? Um, Subsequent investigation by Wadsworth Ayer of the Condon Committee concluded that there was no evidence to support the assertion that the horse's death was associated in any way to abnormal causes.
I mean, it was definitely was
Well,
abnormal but
uh,
abnormal in the fact that it was not a natural death, but that definitely died at the hands of probably some
that was
mountain man who got, I don't know, spooked in the middle of skinning a horse
yeah.
so that he could like eat it. I don't know.
Well, I don't know how the Condon Committee could say that there's no evidence to support the assertion that the horse's death, Snippy, was associated in any way with two abnormal causes.
It's so
I
wild.
mean, no blood, medicinal odor, um, head and neck skinned and defleshed,
It's
uh,
wild.
cuts in the body. What is not abnormal about that? I mean,
Ugh,
seriously,
ugh.
give me a break. Um, Alamos County Sheriff Ben Phillips suggested that death was probably due to a lightning strike. Oh, 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 oh. Okay. Jesus Christ. Look, if there's more to that, and maybe there's a good reason why he's saying that, I'll listen. But that reason isn't here. I'll keep reading. We're almost done here. But Jesus Christ.
But that
I mean,
reason isn't here.
how is the flesh stripped on the head and the neck from a lightning strike? Well, maybe it burned it heads higher. Lightning hits the head, and it just burned from there up because the head's sticking up, so it caught
No.
fire. Give me a goddamn break. Whatever, man. So, due to a lightning strike, and never bothered to visit the site. Okay, I don't. Why wouldn't you want to? Especially out there, you got nothing to do. Why not go see something interesting? Early press coverage of the case misnamed Lady as Snippy. Well, who cares? Snippy was Lady's sire and belonged to Nellie's husband, Burl Lewis. I mean, later press coverage mentions that the horse had been shot in the rump. However, two students from Alamosa State College confessed to sneaking out into the pasture and shooting the horse several weeks after the case was publicized.
Huh?
So, yeah, two kids admitted they'd gone out there after the fact because obviously this came out in the paper, so they went
Yeah.
out there and shot it. It was already dead, right? So, it, you know, it's just interesting because Fox News, they clearly aren't looking and they're not doing much research. And, not like I did a ton of research, but isn't that the idea? I didn't have to do much to see, oh, but they go back as far as 67. Well, let me look at the history real quick. Oh, here's why it went back to 67.
Yeah.
And it looks like that was probably done by a human. So there you go. That's the story. Now, let's just talk cattle mutilations for a minute and see where we're at on that, what the deal is. You mentioned UFOs and aliens, and you don't really think,
Mm-mm.
it's an alien thing, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't know how anybody couldn't agree with that because we have zero evidence that there's life out there anywhere but here. We have zero evidence that if there is life out there, that it's even been here. All we
Mhm.
have are stories, crappy photos, and even crappier videos. That's it. We have no proof. We have no evidence. So to just come out and say aliens and UFOs, well, I mean, UFOs is an unidentified flying object. So technically, maybe an unidentified object could be an airplane. If you didn't know it was that, you're saying an airplane could abduct. I'm being stupid, but for
Mhm.
a reason. It's just asinine. Sure, maybe there's life out there. I believe there probably is. It's so vast. I mean, of course there's life out there. If there's not, there's not. I think there is. But getting here, who the hell knows? Um, why would they do this with cattle when they have humans?
Right.
And then the argument would be, well, plenty of people have reported alien abductions. Okay. Now, the cult thing, and taking the organs for ritualistic purposes, um,
We
God,
would
if
be
anybody,
seeing it literally all over the country if that was the case.
well, this does happen all over the country.
Well,
This happens in numerous countries.
not in every city, state. It's all over, yes, but it's not in like a I don't know. I just don't believe that like cults only exist where there's no people and a whole shit ton of cows.
Well,
Like
no, but that doesn't mean they're not going there to do it because it's so rural. There's so much less chance of getting caught. I mean, you're talking about massive amounts of land that these cattle go on. Like these ranchers, they could easily go without seeing the cattle
they
for
could
days.
also just,
You know,
grab a stray dog. I hate to say this. They could also just grab a stray dog or cat off the street and just, go into an abandoned building and there.
that's
So,
my
I mean,
other.
it doesn't make a lot of sense for
Yes,
for them to go out there and tackle a multi-100 pound,
two
almost a
thousand
1,000 pound
two
animal.
thousand pounds, not multi
Yeah.
hundred. 2,000
Oh
pounds.
yeah, two
Like
thousand pound
what?
bull. Yeah, like what? That doesn't make sense to me. When you could
No.
just pick up a. I again hate saying that, but a stray cat. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
That's probably what they do. Poor stray animal, and they use that. So that's why I can't believe it's a cult thing. Because one, why the fuck would cults go out into the middle of nowhere? And they just
Yeah.
aren't. It's just not an every state thing.
Hmm.
It would just, I don't know. It just the numbers don't add up for a cult for me.
Yeah. That is an argument I was going to present as well. Um, a cow, you could
You have chickens. You
you
have
you could use
smaller farm
virtually,
animals.
yeah, any other animal
Well,
found in or near
many
a big
choices.
city that you could take to your house and do it in the garage, a basement, out in the
I
middle of nowhere
mean,
and do it
so
whatever. But
many wannabe serial killers already do it. I hate.
yeah,
Let's be
so
real.
that I mean, I think that's a good argument. Why a
Thank you.
cow? Why a cow?
Yeah.
And if you want to go with the theory that it's aliens, life from somewhere else, and in alien could be life from here, life we don't know about yet, right?
Mm,
Easily, right?
mm.
But god damn cows, man, really? um
Fucking cows, man.
yeah, I don't know. We did have an earlier episode a long time ago, where there was a cattle mutilation story. God, I hope it wasn't the same one because I remember the Snippy the horse one. I remember that. But there was evidence someone had looked into with there easily being a lack of blood, being a perfectly reasonable explanation for that. So that could be a thing, but I don't know. I think cattle mutilations are very odd.
Mm.
Um, I mean, if you're going to kill the cow and spending time to get in there and precision cut and do things, like why wouldn't you want to take some of the good meat off of it too,
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're
Yeah.
just gonna sit there and let hundreds of dollars just go to
Mhm.
waste.
Probably
Oof.
more than, yeah, I mean,
Fuck.
insane. And
It
now
is insane.
we've also heard theories, possibly reports, but theories that there are possibly people coming in helicopters and taking these things off site, performing the procedures, and then returning them because it's not going to take too long to do this. Um,
And
Now you got to think,
that's crazy, but that would
well,
explain for lack of tracks.
yes, and now you got to think about, yes, lack of tracks.
That's the only way they'd be able to pick up that animal.
Yeah, and who's doing it? Well, I mean, you could get them to walk onto a truck, right, up a ramp. They do it all the time, but I mean, let's be real. That's not the easiest thing. You have a way of doing that. You're going to have to get people in there to herd the thing towards, and
Yeah,
blah
and
blah
usually
blah.
they
It's not
use
an easy
chutes
task,
and stuff because that
right?
cow isn't just going to willingly go up into the
Right.
truck.
It's not an easy task.
It's not a
So
horse. It's not trained to go onto that trailer.
yeah. Now talking about using a helicopter, now you have to wonder, well, what do you mean when you say ranch? Are you talking about a big plot of flat land with grass? where the ranch house is nearby, you'd hear the helicopters. But not necessarily. I mean, we have a ranch by us, actually, quite a few horses, things like that. And there is one where they raise cattle, and it's big hills up and down and back and forth and blah
Oh
blah blah.
yeah.
You could get a helicopter over there. Now it is more rural than where I'm at, even though it's
Mhm.
like 3 miles down the street. Um, you could get a helicopter in there and pick one up. Nobody'd ever know. You would hear the helicopter, 100%. They would hear the helicopter because it's kind of a canyon, things like that, right?
Yeah.
But you'd be on the other side of hills and whatnot.
That's
You're not going to
how.
see it.
Yeah. I used to live by, my sister actually lives by a farm, and they have a couple hundred head in their herd, and there's probably 6 or 7 pastures that they rotate through.
Yeah.
And because sometimes I see them and sometimes I don't, because they're in a pasture that you just can't see from the road. So
Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that would make sense.
All
Yeah.
depends on how rural
Yeah.
and how much land are we talking? How far away from the ranch house can you get so that you don't hear the helicopter? It depends if it's mountainous, hilly, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you could easily do it. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Ultimately, if this is people doing it, then it's obviously curious as to why.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, I think, and for ritualistic purposes, what would be the meaning of cow parts, bull parts, genitalia, whatever,
Cause
reproductive
like,
organs, from a cow versus a human or other animals? What would be the point to that?
cause I mean, like the only thing cow testicles are used for are Rocky Mountain oysters.
Right? We all remember that movie.
So like, unless I know. So unless these aliens have a taste for the obscure and
Balls.
eclectic and love balls, yes. Uh I just yeah. I don't know. It is very strange that those are the pieces that are taken because there's
Yeah.
literally no use for them outside of that one dish.
Yeah, and there's precision cuts, so it's like, are they taking anything from inside? They could also be, if it's a human, they could easily be draining the blood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get the cow, you get a couple people out there, and you can keep this thing from trying to stamp off, run off and stuff. You could easily lay something down. This might be the reason for a precision or somewhat precision cut is because they probably have some type of easily made device that you can just put right up to that cut. Like, here, let me hold this big ass funnel attached to this bag or whatever to collect the blood, while the other guy just boom cuts it. So I don't know how easy it is to get a cow to lay down, maybe get it on its side, but cut the thing open, hold the thing under there, and now you can start draining the blood.
Not
Maybe you can attach
easy.
this. Yeah, or no, but you know, there could be some methods here, and I don't know.
I feel like
I'm
some
not.
form of sedation would be
You would
needed.
think. You would think,
Oh
and
yeah, cows don't fuck with humans. Cows are like,
no,
dude.
no, and you think you'd be seeing. The thing is, though, we don't see too much evidence of medicine or, like you said, something being used to sedate them. At least we don't hear about that
They
that
may not
often.
know because there's no blood to test.
But the thing, well, yeah, they could.
Ooh.
No, 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 no. It's not that there's no blood. There's still blood in there. It's coagulated and all that. They can test blood. There's just no blood found outside of the
Oh, okay.
animal, on the ground. There's still gonna be blood inside. Um,
It
but
probably, I don't know. It does wear off. It does get absorbed through the body eventually. 'Cause,
yeah, but some of
so
these are found so quick, and there's no way
I don't know.
people
I
haven't
just don't.
tested
I just
some of
don't
these.
feel like you can come up to a cow and be like, "Sup, boo? We're going to hook you up to this helicopter." I don't
Oh
know.
no, they're gonna want to go. You're gonna have to go up manually, sedate them, or you're gonna have to trank them with a
All
rifle.
I can imagine is like a helicopter with a claw coming in and like a claw machine. The claw,
Yeah.
ooh, like
Well,
that's That's all I can imagine is swooping and picking him
Yeah,
up.
you got to get the sling on him somehow, and you're
I know.
gonna need a person to do it.
Yeah.
So what the hell? Now you could easily have a quick release to dump the body, so you don't have to put feet on the ground to dump the cow. But to pick it up, you're gonna have to get on the ground. But that's perfect because you'll leave tracks, but you're picking the cow up from somewhere over there, but you're
Mm-hmm.
dumping them way over there. Easy, Serious. They just come in for a hover, get that thing a foot off the ground, hit the quick release, opens up the sling, cow just boom, falls right there a foot to the ground, and that's it.
Yeah.
Honestly, they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to know this thing's missing. They could go out there and look for all their livestock one day. They're still not going to find it all. It'd probably take a few days, but if they don't see one around, they're going to think, oh, it wandered off somewhere else, and they're going to find it, right? Well, the thing's moving while they're moving to go find it. It's going to be days before they actually realize it's gone. So if they came in by chopper, throw two guys on the ground before they even land, all you gotta do is hover, shoot a trank, wait a few minutes for the thing to pass out, go down, get a sling under it, attach it, fly it away to some other remote location that's probably not that far. Do what they're going to do. In the meantime, blood's coagulating, whatever. Even if they cut it open, when they get there and blood comes out, that's fine. They can clean it. They're where they can do it in a way where it's not going to make a huge mess on the cow. When they're done, throw it back in the sling, fly back there, get this thing a foot off the ground, hit the quick release, cow's on the
Drop it.
ground. They're gone. No tracks, no blood, done. But I don't believe it's aliens. I don't know why humans would do this. If it is cultish, ritualistic purposes, it's still going on to this day. Really?
Mm.
Without any evidence, I don't know, man. I'm not sold on anything having to do with cattle mutilations. I mean, I lean towards human. I don't know
Yeah.
why you wouldn't,
Right.
but I'm sold on nothing here. Because it honestly, it still is very weird, odd, obscure. So I don't know. Hopefully no more happen, but hopefully more happen soon, so we can look into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Would be
Yeah.
interesting. Hey, you got a story of your own. That email's been right there the whole time, obscuredr1@gmail.com. Send us an email, type story in the subject line, and tell us your story. We'll tell it for you on here, anonymously if you want. If you want to be on the show, let us know in the email as well. You can tell your own story on here if you want. Again, anonymously if you want. It's up to you.
Yep.
Nah, that would be a little more fun. We can have a chat. Like, share, subscribe, all the usual. Stevie, you got any parting thoughts for us?
Nope.
Okay. Well, with that said, that's Obscured Reality. Cow Mutilations, and I'm having a hard time pronouncing that tonight.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check back with us often for new episodes. Feel free to drop a comment, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Obscured Reality.